On today's episode of Let's Talk Drones, what's happening? Ah! I know how much you guys love it when I get loud in these intros. An earthquake's not the only thing shaking things up. We've got new leaks on the DJI Avata 2, so let's talk drones. What's up? It's Chris, the Drone Geek, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Drones. Let's Talk Drones is brought to you by The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots based in the United States. Make sure you check them out online at thedroningcompany.com. Got lots of good information for you. And I misspoke just a second ago. It's not just for pilots in the United States anymore. It's for pilots worldwide. They've got something for you, even if you're not US based. What the Droning Company really wants you to do is to go to their YouTube channel. Make sure you get subscribed to their YouTube channel. Lots of great content, including tons of content featuring yours truly. In a few weeks, I'll be joined by Sam Karp, friend of the channel, as well as John McBride, formerly of Autel Robotics, now of the Droning Company, as we visit AUVSI Exponential 2024 in San Diego, California. We'll be doing what we always do at these trade shows. We'll be going around having conversations with a ton of folks in the industry and giving you a sneak peek, not just at the show, but some of the technology that's featured at the show. There's always cool new innovations at these shows, so I'm really excited to get started on AUVSI's Exponential 2024 this year, and I'll be joined again by Sam Karp, as well as John McBride, and of course, CEO of the Droning Company, Stuart Smith. Make sure you subscribe to the Droning Company's channel. You'll get to see all of those videos and more, and while you're at it, hit the bell icon too. You'll get a notification every time they post a new video. The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots worldwide. So originally, this video today was supposed to be about the Beta FPV Pavo 20, and I've got a lot of love for that little drone. I haven't had a chance to fly it yet. I'm charging some batteries for it as we speak, but with the leaks of the Avata 2 and with the release of the Avata 2 coming potentially next week, that's what I'm hearing, I wanted to make sure we got this video out. So I just bumped the Beta FPV video until early next week. I'll have that posted and we'll get started on that process as well. But let's talk about the DJI Avata 2 leaks that come courtesy of our friend Jasper Ellens on Jasper Ellens 27 leaks on Twitter, or X, whatever you call it. He's the one, and he's the whole reason that we get all of these leaks, and I'm happy to give him credit for that because he does a lot of hard work in terms of not only getting that information, but then sharing it out with the rest of us. What Jasper shared on his Twitter most recently were some leaked pages from what appears to be a quick start guide for the DJI Avata 2, and there's some interesting information regarding the drone and particularly some of the ways you can fly it, and we're going to talk about those right now. So let's start with the cover of the quick start guide. You see here we've got the drone, the goggles 3, and the motion controller 3. Not a lot you can derive from these sketches or these renderings, but I will say we are seeing a big change in the terms of the build of the Avata. Looks like we've got bigger motors and bigger propellers. I sort of already pointed that out in the last video we did about the Avata leaks. I'm really excited about this because that means the Avata's 2 is going to be able to handle adverse weather conditions better than the Avata 1. Those fan blades combined with those smaller motors on the Avata 1, they just couldn't cut through the wind. You couldn't fly the drone in any significant amount of wind. Even like slight breezes sometimes would give it trouble. So it was sort of a wash when you wanted to fly it outside if there was any type of wind or adverse weather condition. With these larger motors and larger propellers, or so it appears they're larger, I'm hoping the Avata 2 is going to be able to cut through some of that a little bit easier to make this a true go-between drone, a true 3.5-inch style build where you can fly indoors and outdoors and get a similar level of performance. There is one other thing I want to point out on this particular rendering that we can derive from this is the little sensors, it looks like, on the front of the goggles 3. You'll see there are 2 little circular sensors on the front, just in the center there, just along the bridge of the nose for the mask. Just keep those in mind as we move forward. So on this first page, it sort of summarizes some of what we can expect with the DJI Avata 2 and its all-in-one package when it comes to the goggles and the motion controller 3. So it looks like we are going to get improved imaging and battery life as well as safety features. And this is one of the first safety features that goes into some detail here, and I'm really interested to see what this means for the goggles. In that second bullet there, you'll see DJI Goggles 3 Visionary Breakthrough. We have a real view picture-in-picture feature coming, and that's where those sensors on the front of the renderings that you saw just a second ago come into play. It sounds like you're going to be able to have a picture-in-picture view of what's going on in front of you while you're flying the drone. So you won't just be able to see the camera feed from the drone, you'll also have a feed as to what's going on in front of you in relation to where you're standing. This is huge, especially when it comes to some of the problems that we're facing with potential remote ID issues, people being able to track you down and find you while you're flying your drone, being able to have that situational awareness and be able to see what's going on in front of you without having to remove your goggles to be able to do so. That's huge, especially those of us that fly without visual observers, which you should never do. Obviously, you should never, ever do that. That's the most egregious sin you could ever commit in anything, is flying without a visual observer while flying FPV. But in case you do, it looks like you're going to have at least one safety backup to help you out and give you situational awareness while you're flying. The last bullet point here has to do with the Motion 3 controller. This is interesting to me, and I don't know how I feel about it, and in the next page you're going to see some more outline and breakdown of this, but effortlessly perform difficult aerial aerobatics with the DJI RC Motion 3. It sounds to me like they're simplifying something that would otherwise take a tremendous amount of time, practice, and skill to execute. I'm talking about acrobatic style of flight, whether it's barrel rolls, power loops, whatever the case may be. These aren't the most extreme examples of FPV maneuvers, especially depending upon the context. A power loop that is done in a bando versus a power loop that's done in an open field are two completely different things, right? So, you know, the thing is are we simplifying this too much? Are we taking too much of the work out of it? I'm all for making FPV easier to get into for folks that are really interested in it, but there is a line where I'm gonna start to go, nah, that's not exactly how it should be done. And this might be that. And this next page is really gonna reveal why I feel that way. So this is the last leak spec page for the DJI Avata 2, and this really breaks down what we can expect with some of the performance features of the Avata 2. You'll see here Creative Edge Easy Acro, and this is the part that I find somewhat troublesome, and I don't really have a lot of ground to stand on here until we actually see what this means and what the drone can do in this regard, but I do have some real apprehension about this. FPV footage with the DJI RC Motion 3 and Avata 2 is easier than ever with the one push flip, one push roll, and one push 180-degree drift. This is a problem for me in a way, if it truly means what it means. When I read this, what I'm hearing is you're going to be able to press a button and the drone will do a stunt for you. And where I have a problem with this is kind of twofold. First of all, safety is one thing. You're going to have a bunch of people that think that it's a safe situation to do an acrobatic stunt, and maybe it's not, and the drone ends up running into something or someone and causing damage. That's a problem. But the other thing is it does sort of take away from the people that really take the time to practice their craft and sharpen their skills. And I'm talking about the folks that fly manually with a regular RC, with the two-stick setup, the mode 2, mode 1, whatever you fly, I don't know. But basically, the folks that take the time to fly Acro for real and do it manually themselves, it sort of takes away from the effort that goes into developing those skills, and I'm not on board with that. Now, if these turn out to be just gimmicky, like they just do a quick backflip or a quick front flip or a quick roll or whatever the case may be, that's okay, that's fine, I guess. It's gimmicky, it's not gonna really put anybody else out. But to give you an idea of what each of these stunts to me means is the flip is basically like a power loop, whether that's a tight power loop or a larger power loop has yet to be seen. A roll, that's pretty easy, aileron roll or a barrel roll. And then the 180-degree drift, if you fly liftoff like I do, the move sounds like it's called target acquired. It's basically where you fly at a subject and then you pull away from them at the last moment, but you keep the camera fixated on them, so you do sort of a semi-orbit around them as you're moving away from them. All three of these are pretty easy maneuvers overall. It's the principle of the thing, right? So anyway, I could sit here and talk about that for hours and just ramble on and on and on. We're not gonna do that. What I do wanna move on to here is something that really excites me, and that's the camera quality on this drone. So super wide 4K, we're gonna have a 155-degree field of view on the Avata 2's camera. You'll also be able to switch back to an 82-degree field of view, which is a more narrow field of view for regular camera drones. And really what's exciting is this 1/1.3-inch CMOS sensor. So what's exciting about that is, first of all, we're just one step closer to having a 1-inch sensor on a cinewhoop drone, which is very, very cool to have an onboard visualization system that would have a sensor that big. It does have a 12 megapixel resolution, and what I'm really most excited about is this offline stabilization for GyroFlow. In the Avata and the O3 Air unit, unless you're shooting in, I think there's like 2 or 3 different shoot modes as far as your video resolution goes, unless you're shooting in one of those modes, and the one that I shoot in most regularly, and I think this is the most shot in for most folks, is 2.7K at 60 frames per second, shooting at a 4:3 aspect ratio. Unless you're shooting in that profile or another one of the other profiles that it's able to read, you can't actually run DJI footage through GyroFlow, which is a huge bummer to my workflow, because GyroFlow, in my opinion, is the best stabilization software there is for FPV pilots. It works great with GoPro footage, and again, if you shot in those resolutions for DJI with the Avata or the O3 Air unit, it would work well for that as well. But if you can open up the potential to be able to shoot 4K 120 frames per second at 16:9 aspect ratio, and then be able to stabilize it in GyroFlow, that would be cool. That would be really cool. Another thing is just make it so you can shoot 4K 120 at 4:3 and then also be able to stabilize it in GyroFlow. I'm just spitballing here. I don't really know what this means. I just am excited about the fact that DJI is seemingly going to integrate better with GyroFlow. So that's all good stuff. The question is, will I purchase the DJI Avata 2? It's hard to say. I'm not really flying DJI FPV products much in terms of the actual drones themselves. I still run the goggles system, and I still, for the most part, fly the DJI FPV controller too, although that is changing in an upcoming video I've got here on the channel. But overall, I still use their peripherals. I just don't fly the drones that much anymore. And there's nothing inherently wrong with those drones. It's just the performance that they offer versus the performance of the pre-builts that I fly, and even some of the custom-built drones that I've got planned for this year. It's two different things. They don't perform the same way. And quite frankly, I'm willing to sacrifice the flight time, which DJI does very well on their FPV products, for the increased performance. I'd rather have that performance there than have an extra 10 minutes of flight time or whatever it averages out to be. That's just my opinion, though. That doesn't mean that the DJI FPV systems are bad. In fact, they're really great, especially when you're talking about the Avatas and the FPV drone when you're getting started with FPV. I've said this before, I'll continue to beat this drum, even though I'm not planning on buying the Avata full price, the Avata 2 full price. The DJI FPV systems are great for beginners. If you're looking to get into FPV and learn how to fly that way manually, this is a great system to start on. The reason being is it has a ton of training wheels, for lack of a better term. You've got the emergency brake button, so if you are flying in Acro mode or manual mode, you can just hit that button and it puts you right back in normal mode, which basically just has a position hold on it, so it'll fly like a Mavic, for instance. And even before that, if you want to transition slowly into manual style flight, you can start flying with the FPV goggles for the Avata and the FPV in normal mode. So again, it'll fly like a Mavic or a Phantom or whatever you fly GPS for DJI. And then you can upgrade to sport mode, which is a little bit looser. It still has position hold, so you don't have to worry about it drifting around or losing control of it for the most part, but the controls are a little looser, it moves a little faster. And then manual mode is the last flight mode on these things, which basically puts you in full acro, which means you can do flips, you can do tricks, all these different things. So it's a great system for beginners. The only other way that I'd recommend somebody get started in FPV is to just go out and purchase a radio or a receiver or a controller, and then just get something like Liftoff or some sort of flight simulator that can let you cut your teeth without putting actual hardware at risk or other things at risk while you're flying. So there's different ways to get into it, but if you just want to get out in the field and start flying in real life with a drone via FPV, the DJI systems are great for that if you're just getting started. So no knocks on DJI, and if I'm being completely honest with you, I can't say who, I can't say when, and I can't obviously show it to you, but I have seen clips of the Avata 2's footage. What comes out of the camera, it's amazing. It's great. All the footage that I've seen shot on the Avata 2 by people that got it pre-release, fantastic. It's amazing. So yeah, that's all I'll say there, but I just want to make it clear, I'm not knocking the DJI FPV systems. I just, at this point in the game, don't have a lot of interest myself. If I can grab one for either super cheap or for free, somebody gives it to me to review, then yeah, of course we're going to do a review on the Avata 2 because I think it's interesting enough, but I just don't think that there's enough room in my budget and in my fleet to bring in another drone by DJI that is $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. What do you think though? Are you gonna purchase the Avata 2? I'm interested to hear how many of you are gonna go out and purchase this drone. I think it's gonna be a good one. Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up icon down below. Helps me out a lot, helps get this video out into the algorithm to more viewers like yourself. If you really loved this video and you love drone content shot by drones, about drones, and for drone pilots, my friend, this is the channel for you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, as well as the bell icon. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. Until next time, I'm Chris, the Drone Geek, and I am out of here. See ya.
Yo, what you say? Steady screaming, YOLO, rockin' polo, we